This is a recording that was meant to be done on September 14th, but the recording mechanism was not operating properly, so I'm doing it now in my office. This month, the theme is expectancy, and as with all expectancy, there can be surprises. So today my talk is not on expectancy, it's on discipline, the verb. Discipline gets a very bad rap. Discipline, the verb, according to Merriam-Webster, means to punish, instruct, teach somebody obedience, or following church's rule. Obedience is compliance. Complicity in following the prescribed behavior within a group does not necessarily forward my spiritual life unless the group's focus is spiritual development. And I trust that is why we are all here today, for spiritual development. Contained in the word discipline is disciple, someone who follows what or who they love and believe in. What are you a disciple of? What do you believe in? As theories goes, there are some, quote, disciplines that shift their attention from external punishment and reward to an internalization of one's moral sense. Theorists like Abraham Maslow and W. Edwards Deming suggest a return to humane education principles and affirmation of human goodness. These intrinsic values are the ones that satisfy, induce self-control, and energize towards self-improvement, close quote. These are the positive values of discipline that I refer to in this talk. I have learned a more motivational way of looking at discipline, the verb. Discipline will get me where I want to go. I am careful to keep the baby and only discard the bathwater. Discipline in and of itself is the greatest act of self-love. Discipline also is understood as doing something regularly. Cleaning, cooking, and working out regularly means I am loving myself enough to get those things into my life. Giving myself to God regularly is an act of discipline. But first, a bit about the other kind of punishing discipline. I went to parochial school in the 1950s and 60s. The teachers, who were nuns, were allowed to administer corporal punishment for minor infractions, real or imagined, in order to discipline us students. We were to follow the rules to the letter, no questions asked. Now, how did this fearful living help to create independent thinking persons? How did being slapped across my face, knocking me out of my desk because I laughed when someone made a joke, make me want to act the way the teacher wanted me to be, or diminish my sense of humor? Having had my knuckles cracked with a 16-inch steel ruler for poor penmanship never did a thing for my handwriting. Still can't find the Palmer method in my script. And all of these instances were done in a religious school with the intention of character building. I was not motivated closer to religious beliefs, character, or submission. Rather, I quietly withdrew and hatefully rebelled, and then went to public high school. But then at home, to be disciplined meant if I did not clean my room and my brother's room, I was hit and lost privileges or my allowance. Being disciplined meant I was in trouble for failing to live up to someone else's standards that was held over my head. I am all for standards, and I am all for applying myself to standards. But whose standards? I object to following rules for the sake of following rules. In other words, I believe that people who do not think for themselves are lackadaisical in critical analysis. Fundamentalists of any religion seem not to question anything, and seem rigid in their interpretation of their scripture. They follow and serve without critical analysis. However, spiritualists make choices based on their values, and I do not subscribe to the punishment of non-accomplishment of standards or when I fall short in applying myself. I need to think for myself and find others who are similar-minded. My community is based in shared values and standards, one of which is disciplined action of service. Using my own moral and spiritual compass, I need to separate out what it is that I believe and where I need to go. Then apply disciplined actions to accomplish those goals. When I use self-discipline to accomplish my goals, I am self-loving. And just like any other exertion of acceptance and will, self-discipline takes effort. But the outcome is great. Every time I endeavor something, I may fail, or I may succeed, or I may just begin a new task that will take time to improve. But whatever the result, I have moved from my comfort zone. Discipline needs consistency to develop. As I go to pottery every week, I'm developing my style, my voice in clay. If I only went once in a while, then my development would not happen, or it may be frustrating because I was out of shape. A child believes she is loved by receiving positive attention. Developing sound study habits can bring a sense of security and belonging to a tribe of like-minded souls for whom education is valued. A disciplined child has a better chance of succeeding. Being accustomed to good habits will last a lifetime. Even a dog is happier when he is trained through discipline because he has a better sense of fulfilling his task in life. And we all have a job to do, a journey to follow, service to be offered. Discipline is a tool of accomplishment and spiritual development. Physical hygiene is appreciated practically in every culture and faith tradition. Physical hygiene links us to the divine. As we consciously cleanse our bodies to be connected to God, we can make a blessing every time we wash. Ritual, disciplined hygiene can be a supplication to a higher dictate. For me, a good soak in a hot tub relieves my mind and my body. It's a way for me to offer myself up to Great Source. And that's been a part of my spiritual practice for years. But now I have a small tub, and so I don't use that practice that I really miss. And there is another hygiene discipline, spiritual hygiene. How we do this is through immersion into prayer and self-reflection. We speak as if we are in the presence of a higher essence, as if the universe responds to your prayer. I feel a sense of connectedness in this practice. All spiritual paths utilize disciplined self-reflection. I ask myself, have I lived the best ways today? How can I improve? Did I value myself and others? Have I practiced forgiveness today? Have I given back to the universe in a specific way? Have I harmed anyone through thought, word, or deed? This disciplined spiritual hygiene places us squarely in the path of God, humbly asking for guidance and strength. This keeps us from negative energy encasing our thoughts and our actions. Self-discipline is required for me to recover from my most recent hip surgery. I must go to the physical therapist and practice the exercises in between the visits. My depleted physical condition, these circumstances make patience another goal for me to accept, where I'm physically not able to do what I want to do. Of course, I want to push the river. My language has had to improve. Because I can curse like a stevedore and not even break a sweat. I came to feel that my foul language was not serving my highest good. I had to be disciplined about what I allowed to pass through my lips. It's not that I'm a goody-goody, far from it. It's that I am aware of how words have impact. I want positive to emerge from my lips, not negative. I finally became sick and tired of using four-lettered words to describe how I felt or to express my frustration. And that's how most changes happen for me. Most of the time, I have to bottom out on a poor behavior before I can commit to a better one, before I could take a disciplined approach to my food. But I don't always want to be disciplined. Sometimes it's easier to conform than being the oddball. But conformity does not speak to my soul. And for me, disciplined conformity is like taking a hammer to make the square peg fit in the round hole. I don't conform to female clothing standards or the heteronormity of sexuality. And thank God some of those have changed. I don't want to look youthful at the expense of appropriateness. I mean, I want to look like I'm in touch, but not like I'm trying to look young. So my clothing choice and my hairstyle need to match me, not an illusion of me. And when I disobey a ruling, it is not always because I'm a contrarian. Rather, it is because I know what it does and does not work for me. Part of the experience of age is knowing what works and what does not. Or I may go against what is prescribed by the powers that be because my spiritual principles are compromised. So there is a disciplined approach of not following rules. I was a good girl in my earlier years. Then as I became who I am, I realized that following some rules meant I was abandoning myself. For example, bigoted beliefs and laws against blacks or Jews or homosexuals are just unjust. So I must keep my own counsel and not live by them. I had to be willing and disciplined to live outside the normal realm. I had to be disciplined to create my own life that fits me. Recently, I was called for jury duty, and when I went through the voir dire process, we were all asked, can you uphold to the letter of the law, blah, blah, blah. And I realized and put my hand up and said, no, because some laws are just stupid. Of course, I was excused from jury duty. Like civil disobedience, there is a religious disobedience. Many of you here probably have felt similarly about religious or church rules, rules that do not speak to you. Tell me, what are the spiritual principles that inform religious rules that reject someone because they are divorced or because church teachings reject someone who's gay? What spiritual principles support that kind of treatment? Spiritual love resides in acceptance, not rejection. And so I craft my spiritual life based in love, not rules. Discipline is not about maintaining the status quo. Rather, disciplined actions allow for the self-transformation to happen within and without. There is a place for the discipline of rebellion. Rebellion is the most creative thing I can do. There is a discipline to rebellion. To stay true to oneself is to be disciplined about the choices you make. For me, the discipline is to rejoice in the love, not to fear punishment or retribution. Rejoice in the love of the task. Being obligated to do something and not love doing it bottlenecks the flow of love. You might say to yourself, but my mother needs assistance now that she's aging and she was mean to me when I was a kid. I don't love that. It's an obligation. The discipline is to find the love in the task. Do nothing out of duty. Do it only out of love. Love is joy. Love is our purpose. Help yourself help others because you love to do it. Not out of responsibility, not out of obligation, not out of fear, and not out of pity. Do what you can because you love to do it. Without love, do nothing. It will be tainted with attachments that are spiritually unhealthy and short-lived. So the difference between rigid discipline and loved discipline is that I embrace the outcome even if I do not want to do the activity that gets me there. I may not care to go to the gym on any given day, but when I surrender myself to the goal of health and fitness as I age, then the daily task submits itself to the long view that is important. I love to have the house in order. I feel better about the peacefulness it affords, but I don't like to do the 15 minutes it takes to keep it in order. Discipline is what is required. That and inviting people over. Then it's a mad dash to get the whole house in shape. A disciplined technique for me is a methodical one. I look to see what needs to be done. Let's say cleaning the kitchen. I may be feeling like sweeping and washing the floor first. I know from experience that if I do that when I clean the cabinets and the countertops, dirt drops onto the clean floor. So methodically cleaning from top to bottom is a disciplined approach. Similarly, if I want to pray and meditate and wait till the evening, I'm not centered for the day and my messy mind will have affected everyone and everything I have come in contact with that day. So the disciplined approach of prayer and meditation in the morning is the most effective for me, and concluding with that in the evening. The Jungian analyst Marion Woodman, a pioneer of the divine feminine, once said, "Continuing to do pioneering sacred work in a world as crazy and painful as ours without constant grounding yourself in sacred practice would be like running into a forest fire dressed only in a paper tutu." And so I offer these questions to you in the light of discipline, the verb. How do you ground yourself? Do you wear a paper tutu and run into the fire? Do you have a code of ethics? What are some of your spiritual principles that you live by? Humility? Acceptance? Forgiveness? Do you have the discipline of an inner friendliness? How do you behave in your inner world? How do you behave in the outside world, in relationships? How do you engage in discipline? Do you go to sleep at an hour that is best for you? Do you eat well for optimum health? Do you chatter without thinking about what you're saying? Have you ever used silence as a pathway to a closer relationship within yourself and God and others? Do you journal about your dreams? How do you use your imagination? Are you aware of how you use your language? Do the words you choose reflect who you really are today? Or are they a vestige of a life lived yesterday? Do you love the discipline more deeply through your practices and offer more service to the world? Do you offer one spirit your passion or only your displeasure? Embrace the principles of your belief system. Be an adherent to those principles. Be the disciple of peace in your mind, in your heart, in your language, in your actions. Be a disciple, a pupil of what you love, to positivity, to surrender, to acceptance, to forgiveness. Be an example of love observed, of self-love served. Be the godliest version of yourself through discipline, the verb.